Hey guys, welcome to my garden. We're now nearing the end of August and it's been such a great growing season for me this year. I've learned so many new things and I've grown so many great vegetables, and I'm still harvesting more than I know what to do with on a daily basis. In this video, I'm going to share with you what's still growing and some of the struggles that I've had this growing season, and how I'm planning to make some changes for next growing season. Looks like we might get a little bit of rain, but I'm going to record this video anyway. I think it's going to hold up. We'll see. So let's check it out. So we come to the front of my garden and we have my two newest raised beds that I planted some flowers in, just to pretty it up. Not sure if next year we're going to plant more flowers here or if we're going to grow some food. I do like to have a variety of pollinators for the garden, attracting so many cool things like hummingbirds and butterflies and bees to pollinate my plants. So we'll see what I decide to grow, but over here these beds are going to be dedicated to strawberries, and you can see they're just running all over the place. That's what I want them to do. I may even connect these beds at some point if I have to. My first year growing strawberries and getting some here and there. Excited to see some more fruit on these plants. All right, let's go in the garden. Keep getting this passing sun shower here. I don't know if you can see the drops, but we're recording anyway. I don't care if I get a little wet. All right, over here is the newest bed that I've added to the garden. I needed to find a permanent home for our fig tree, and we wanted to give them lots of space to grow. This area right here, there's a lot of sun and it's kind of out of the way. So I just put some very large stones all around, filled it in with some dirt, and that's Figaro's new home. Next to Figaro, we got a couple of pots full of onions. I harvested the rest of my onions already, and these guys look like they're still growing. The other stuff that I harvested looked like it wasn't growing anymore, and they're drying in my basement. All right, next we have some bok choy. We've been eating tons of bok choy this year. We've been getting some pest pressure with these worms, especially on the kale and the Brussels sprouts, and the slugs too. Even the ones that got damaged, they rebound and they grow some new stuff, and it looks great. We have some mustard greens here, giant red. The rainbow shard looks awesome. At one point, I thought I was going to have to harvest it all and rip it up. It wasn't looking so hot, but it rebounded and it looks great, looking better than ever. All right, coming over here, we have the kale. Kale's still looking very healthy. I thought this was another thing that wasn't going to survive the summer. We started to get some of these worms on it that like to eat holes in the leaves, like this guy right here. But you know, I think they were too busy on my Brussels sprout plants to worry about the kale this year. Last year they destroyed my kale. This year they kind of destroyed my Brussels sprouts, but I'll show you those in a minute. They're surviving and rebounding as well. Next we have our squash plants, our winter squash, two types. We're growing the butternut squash right here. Got two of them right there. We've already been harvesting a few. And then we have some acorn squash over here. These plants get a lot bigger than I was expecting them to get. can get like 20 feet long if you let them. So next year, I'm gonna be doing a little more pruning on those squash plants throughout the season. So we got a good crop of these sugar snap peas in the early summer, late spring time, and we ripped it up, and a couple of weeks ago planted some new plants and they're taking off. The soil's nice and warm, and we're trying to get in one last crop before the fall comes and the cold weather. Same with this area right here. We just replanted this with some lettuce, some more bok choy, and more peas, and more string beans. String beans are really starting to take off. And here we just have some more bok choy and carrots. Right here I got more basil than I know what to do with. Really need to harvest some of this and make some pesto. I have a video on making pesto. If you want to check it out, check out the link above. Next up, we got some radishes, some flowers called sweet alyssum, which are a little bit past their prime, but still attracting some pollinators. And we got these cool red peppers right here. They're called lunchbox red peppers, and they're perfect little mini size and delicious. On to my favorite flowers in the garden, the zinnias. They get a lot bigger than I was expecting them to get. They're taller than me, about 6 feet tall, some of them. And they grow out pretty wide, but they're so cool. They attract so many cool pollinators to the garden, attract a variety of hummingbirds and bees and all sorts of cool butterflies. Really love these flowers. Definitely something I plan on growing every year, but now I know that they get huge and we're gonna have to keep them under control a little bit better next year. All right, next we have the last of my zucchini plant. I ripped up my other zucchini plants because they weren't looking so hot, but this one was still looking promising. And what do you know? Still gonna give me a couple zucchini, it looks like. Really excited about that. We got so many good zucchinis this year. I've been stuffing zucchini, and my wife makes these awesome zucchini muffins. Love it. Next, we have a lot of stuff going on right here. We have 2 eggplants right here, a Japanese style eggplant. Really cool purple varieties, long and thin. They're great for sauteing. And we have intertwined here a squash plant and a bunch of sweet potatoes. I'm getting some trouble this month with pests coming in the garden, and this groundhog broke in a couple times, which is why I got this thing, which you hear right now, going off, which I'm not a big fan of. It hasn't really done much. I'll play all the settings for you real quick. Some high-pitched noise, some motion sensor activated, and I'm not really sure it works. I'm going to turn it off just so it doesn't keep going on during my filming. But, you know, I'm still losing tomatoes, and it's not keeping the groundhog away the way I'd like. Also the squirrels. Same with the hawk up here. You know, the squirrels just know better. At this point, all I can do is just grow a ton of food and not care as much if the squirrels take a little bit here and there. But anyway, back to my sweet potato plants. Yeah, that groundhog got in here and did some damage, chewed them up. Guess he likes sweet potato leaves. But they're growing back, and hopefully they'll rebound and I'll get some nice sweet potatoes. But again, the squash got a little bigger than I was expecting, and it's just all mixed in with the sweet potatoes right now. A little bit of a mess. We got our salvia over here. It took a little while for this to take off, but once it did, definitely started producing some cool flowers and attracting a lot of pollinators. My pole beans got a little too big and out of control. Next year I'm not gonna plant as many plants because they send out side shoots and they really just start to take over. So what I had to do is I had to rip up one side of these and really cut it back. And now that I've cut it back, what I've left behind is starting to produce some string beans. Down here, I planted some more cucumbers. Hopefully we get one more crop of cucumbers this season. We'll see, it's a little late. They need to start growing fast. All right, so my tomatoes. Learned a big lesson this year with my trellising. I grew a lot of tomatoes this year and a lot of varieties. All the tomato plants get pretty heavy, and the trellising system that I put up just wasn't ready for all this weight once all the fruit started to develop. And I knew it was getting pretty heavy. I was trying to reinforce it, and all it took was Hurricane Iaias to come through and knock my plants right over, broke my trellising, and I had to come through. I had to re-trellis these plants one by one. If you want to see the video that I made about that storm and how I had to re-trellis these, check out the link above. But going forward, it's a lesson learned. Going to have to beef up my trellising big time because, man, these tomato plants are heavy when I was picking them up one by one. 16 tomato plants is a lot more than I need. I guess I went into it thinking I wanted to practice and just grow a ton, give a lot away and make sauce. I would probably be fine if I grew like 8 plants. That would probably give me more than I need and still be able to give them away and not worry about the squirrels. So yeah, it's fun, but a lot of work, a lot of pruning. They take up a lot of space, but they are beautiful and one of my favorite things to grow. I mean, look how pretty those plum tomatoes look right there. So I recently ripped up all of my cucumbers that were right here on this trellising. It's another thing that I'm gonna change next year is I gotta build a taller, stronger trellising for my cucumbers. This was pretty lightweight and leaning, and the cucumbers just took over. I planted way too many cucumbers. So less cucumber plants and stronger trellising next year. I planted some more sugar snap peas where the cucumbers were, and hopefully we'll get a nice late summer crop of sugar snap peas. Right here we got my little mini watermelons, looking so cool. Not sure when to pick these guys. I'm just gonna let them keep ripening and growing as big as they can, because I picked one already and I thought it was good to go about a week ago. I cut it open and it wasn't ripe, so I was pretty bummed about that. Next we have some tatsoi, Swiss chard, and some more kale and some more peas. All right, moving on to the Brussels sprouts. Another lesson learned this year with the Brussels sprouts is they need a lot of space. I bought them as plants this year and they came 6 in a pack, and I tried to squeeze 6 of them all together in one row, and that wasn't a good idea. They need a lot more space. So they were getting attacked by these worms that kept eating holes in the leaves. Next year I might have to try to do some preventative spraying of something natural. Been reading up on something called BT that organic gardeners use, and I might give that a shot next year. But this guy right here is doing pretty well. Getting some little baby Brussels sprouts for me, looking good. This guy over here, I dug him up and tried to transplant him. And he looks like he's rebounded a little. Getting some little nubs down here. We'll see what happens. I don't have high hopes for him, but these guys right here are looking great. All right, next we have more zinnias, 6 feet tall and going crazy, but looking good. And these guys get big. And behind the zinnias, my crop of celery, which we're starting to harvest. First time growing celery, really cool. And then the rest of my pepper plants. I showed you one of my pepper plants over there. That was actually an extra that I had that I decided just to plant in a different location. But here's where I planted all my pepper plants, and I have a lot of the lunchbox variety here getting red. Got a bunch that need to be harvested. I got to go through this today and harvest them up. These guys right here are called Thunderbolt peppers, and they're going to turn purple. I don't know if I've ever eaten a purple pepper before. And then back here is a different variety of peppers called YOLO peppers. I do need to work on my trellising for the peppers as well. You know, I just ran out of poles, you know, this year. I used them in so many different spots and expanded the garden, and just haven't really bought more poles. So I'm just making do with what I have. Getting creative. I'm using some branches from trees and whatever I have. It's trellis for now. Still doing the job, good enough. Next year we'll improve it and make it better. Last row, but not least, this is my perennial row right here. My blackberry plants back here are starting to get big. Gonna have to trellis these up a little better because they're trying to get 6 feet tall as well. These asparagus plants, I just were extra, so I just planted them anywhere I could and squeezed them in here. Hopefully they don't get too crowded out by these blackberries and raspberries. And the raspberries are really starting to take off here. The bees are pollinating these guys and they're looking good. Hey guys. Growing 4 different varieties of raspberries. My first year growing these, and they're just getting established now, and they're growing pretty aggressively. You know, earlier in the season, they didn't look like they were gonna get that big, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're growing pretty thick. But looking forward to having some good raspberries, and next season we'll re-trellis this with something a little more permanent and a little stronger and a little taller. And then come to our asparagus bush here. I have a lot of asparagus planted right here. In the first year, you just let it get established and you let it grow out like a bush. Let it absorb that sun and get established and create energy. And then next year, I'm probably gonna do the same, where I don't harvest any and I just let it grow like a bush. And after that, harvesting asparagus for probably the next 10 years in this spot. Can't wait. All right, guys, thanks for checking out my garden tour. We're really lucky to have such a productive garden this year. The weather's been great, except for that one storm. Knocked down my tomato plants, but we rebounded, picked them up, and the garden's still doing awesome. I look forward to updating you guys on things I'm growing. Over the years, I plan on expanding this space, growing some more perennials, and just getting better and better every year. You know, this is only my 2nd year in this garden, and it's just gonna keep getting better every year, guys. If you like that video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. I also make other videos about how I grow mushrooms and how I like to prepare some of this awesome garden food in my kitchen for my family. Looking forward to doing the next one with you guys. For now, have a great day and stay healthy.